And we've got two guests looking ahead to the address by President Trump. Clark Plexico was a four-term Democratic senator from North Carolina. Tom Davis is a former Republican House representative. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us on Al Jazeera. Tom, let me start with you. We're in the run-up to the midterms, although I know, of course, we are several months away still from those in November. Nevertheless, as Alan was outlining and Paddy was outlining, the polling, broadly speaking, for the administration is low. What would you not want to hear from Donald Trump in this speech?
I think he needs to paint a positive vision of this country and where it's going and not detract and running the last campaign. Midterms tend to be referendums on the president. Presidential elections tend to be choices. You've got to remember, in these polls just cited, the Democratic Party has lower ratings than the president does. But going into a midterm, generally voters like to put a check on the president than giving him a blank check. So I think the president needs to stay on his message, talk about how we sealed the border, talk about he's got the hostages back in the Middle East, talk about the beautiful bill that has kept taxes low. And the fact that the economy is improving. You don't turn the Queen Mary around overnight. It takes some time to do that. And I think he needs to give Americans hope in terms of where they're going and stay on script, not go up. People are not concerned about his petty grievances and what other people have done and Joe Biden did. They're concerned about what he's doing. I think if he does that, he can lay a predicate here for turning this thing around for Republicans.
Clark, so most people already have an opinion one way or the other about Donald Trump. And as Tom was just suggesting, you know, it's the presidential elections which are our choice. These are just, these in many ways are just a reflection of how people feel about the current administration. What could Democrats hope to gain from this State of the Nation speech, given the fact that it is to some degree fairly predictable?
Well, I think the midterm elections are basically the cloud over the State of the Union. I mean, that's what everyone is thinking about. And I think listening to what Tom had to say, I think that Republicans would be a lot better off if Tom Davis gave this speech, because he nailed it. That's exactly what the president needs to do. But I don't see this president doing that. He has a very difficult time staying on script. He will tell us that he has stopped however many wars it is he's claimed, and we have world peace. The skies are bluer, the air is cleaner, the water is pure, and he's done it all. And he'll haul out the Olympic winners, and he'll do some of that. But staying on script is a tough thing for him to do. And you can't ignore, I agree with Tom, that all the polls are bad for the president, and Democrats are not in a great position to take advantage of that, except for the fact they are the only alternative in town. Democrats have to do a much better job of talking the language of the average American, in the language of the average American, in states that are competitive and have been affected by some of these policies. I mean, the policies that he is mainly strongest on, immigration, inflation, the economy, that's where he's lost support. I mean, a very small percentage support him on the economy and inflation. A big number, a growing number, is against his approach to deportation of immigrants. Where the Democrats have to get it right is to say we do have a problem on immigration. We do have a problem at the border. We want to do it in a humane way. The humaneness of this presidency, I've yet to see.
Tom, it seems fairly clear that the economy is going to be an intrinsic part of both the midterms, but obviously the second part of this term for the Trump administration as well. Now, some Republicans, and you refer to it there, are convinced that there is a good message to put forward on the economy. At the same time, of course, Democrats thought that ahead of the last presidential election. That didn't work out so well for them. How would you want Trump in this speech to convince voters that he does understand the struggles that many of them are facing in the U.S.?
Well, it's a good question. Look, we have an old saying in politics that voters aren't stupid, they're just not informed. But they know when the shoe is pinching and it's time to get a new pair of shoes. That's what elected Donald Trump. Is people with inflation. If you weren't in the stock market and you didn't own a home, you couldn't get a loan. and you were falling behind every month. And turning around inflation, we hadn't seen this for 40 years. The most important thing that he can do. And I think he needs to talk about his strategy, give people some hope, and hope over the next 6 months the economic conditions improve. For the top level of this economy, things are still pretty good. Stock market set an all-time high last week. Wages are up. But you still have a group down the economic spectrum who voted for Donald Trump that are looking for actions and looking for leadership, more importantly. He needs to give them hope and talk about what his one big beautiful bill is going to do for them in terms of tax cuts and letting them spend some of their more money, what he's done to try to lower some of these prescription drugs. And then he's got to deliver over the next 6 months. He's got time to turn this around. But this should be an optimistic speech. This is his time that is center stage. I sat through 14 of these in Congress, and I've seen presidents give great speeches and turn things around. I've seen some that have blown the opportunity. It's a great opportunity for the president if they'll utilize it.
One of the criticisms that were leveled, Clark, at the Democrats following the last presidential election was the fact that Democrats were seen to be out of touch with regular voters, that they were elitist. How much do you think Democrats have worked to try to bridge that gap? And are they leaving themselves open to the same criticisms that the Republicans have had as well, that there is not an understanding of the kind of economic pinch that is facing them at the moment?
I think there's grounds for that. Andy Beshear has made a good statement, the governor, Democratic governor of Kentucky. And if you can imagine winning a race in Kentucky as governor, as a Democrat, so he obviously knows how to talk to people like that. He said what Democrats have to do is to learn to talk in the normal language of normal people. And some Democrats have failed miserably at that. And what I'd like to see is the Democratic Party start listening to the Democratic people who have actually won in a purple state, a competitive state, who are governors, who are members of the House, who are state legislators. Listen to the people. They obviously know the message. They know what's concerning people, and they talk about that. Donald Trump I am not a fan of Donald Trump. I think it's pretty obvious, but he is the president of the United States, and I wish any president success because that's what's important for our country. But I will be amazed, not just surprised, but amazed if he does stay on point and talk about some of these things in a positive way that would be beneficial. Just as the Democrats have to be positive and talk everyday language to everyday people if we're going to win.
Tom, we're talking about a time where Russia and Ukraine still attacking each other. The US may be on the brink of some sort of intervention with Iran, possibly war with Iran. US forces seized Nicolas Maduro from Venezuela. How confident are people going to be that Donald Trump's attention is actually inside America and not outside it?
Well, I think you can do both. On the foreign policy front to date, when you take a look at what they did with Maduro, lifting him out, was a tremendous exercise of American power. Took a lot of guts to make that call and have it come out right. But the problem for the president is he changed the subject the next day and moves on to Greenland instead of basking in this American success. Got the hostages back from Israel, brought a ceasefire into the Middle East. He's done some good things, but at the end of the day, people don't vote on that. Doing those things is helpful if he is successful, and he's some of these things ahead have some pitfalls. But it's going to be about how is the guy on the ground affected, and he needs to focus about what he's going to do, not what he inherited and what they've done.
Tom, I'm just going to interrupt you there because we're slightly running out of time. Please forgive me, but I just want to go to Clark for a very brief final answer. Given I've got a list of what have been regarded as some of the major problems that are in the US, that the US is facing at the moment. It's taking up a full side of an A4 sheet of paper. Yet Democrats seem unable to get a grip on Donald Trump and his administration. How tough do they have to be? Just briefly, sir, in the run up to the midterms and the run up to the next presidential election, how much do they have to change the way that they're dealing with this?
Well, let me just comment very quickly on his supposed success in Venezuela. I was in Iran for 2.5 years during the revolution. I've lived through that. And I can tell you that Iran is not Venezuela. And it's going to be a whole nother pack of problems for the president if he chooses to go that direction. So that is something that we need to keep an eye on. As I said before, I can imagine this president talking about certain things. What you always have to be aware of with Donald Trump is the thing you don't suspect. Is he going to announce tonight, at the end of that we're on the verge of going to war with Iran? If he does, he's going to take the eye off the ball of everything Tom's been talking about as far as what needs to be done. The Democrats, I think I've already mentioned that we need to work with people, Democrats who have won in purple states and competitive states, who know how to listen to people and need to talk in their language to them. And then we'll be able to compete with anyone.
Clark, we're going to leave it there. Clark Plexico and Tom Davis, we appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you very much indeed.
Don't miss out, get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.